If you care about the seafood you eat, you need to know where it comes from. Wild Alaskan Company delivers 100% wild-caught, frozen right off the boat, perfectly portioned fish straight to your door, so you always know exactly where it comes from. That means no antibiotics, GMOs, or additives. Just clean, real fish that support healthy oceans and responsible fishing communities. Get seafood you can trust. Go to wildalaskan.com/podwild for $35 off your first box of seafood today.
I am so excited for this spa day. Candles lit, music on, hot tub warm and ready. And then my chronic hives come back. Again, in the middle of my spa day. What a wet blanket. Looks like another spell of itchy red skin. If you have chronic spontaneous urticaria, or CSU, there is a different treatment option. Hives during my next spa day? Not if I can help it. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Celaena finally rises to Rowan's merciless challenges, only to face a shadow that forces her to relive her darkest moments. When Rowan's dominance pushes Celaena past her breaking point, she unleashes the truest part of her that she's kept locked away, transforming at last into her Fae form. In Rifthold, Chaol clashes with his father over his future in Aniel while secretly tracking down Aedion Ashriver, only to uncover a deadly alliance with the rebels, which forces Chaol to reveal Aelin's truth in exchange for his life. Meanwhile, Dorian's growing magic spirals out of control during a visit with Sorsha, binding the two in dangerous secrecy. And in the mountains, Manon and her 13 take to the skies on wyverns for the first time, reinvigorating their souls as they capture that piece of themselves that has been missing the last 10 years. Hey there, we're BookTok for BookTok with Jac and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
And we bring the tools of literary analysis to the women-written novels, lighting up BookTok, from romance to romantasy. Think of it as your favorite fandom books, treated with the same respect you'd give any classic in literature class, just with more humor and less homework.
Each season, we dive into one book, breaking down themes, imagery, and character motivations. Together, we combine our 13 years of literary academic training with our fandom love to help you see your favorite books in a whole new way. We also analyze the story through 2 different literary lenses, giving you more than one way to look at the text.
This week, we're discussing chapters 14 through 20 of Sarah J. Maas's third novel in the Throne of Glass series, Heir of Fire.
For a complete list of episodes and the chapter breakdowns, be sure to check out our Instagram at the handle BookTok for BookTok.
Before we dive in, let's talk about Spilt. That's spoilers, perspective, interpretation, language, and themes.
Spoilers. This episode covers Heir of Fire with the full context from the first 3 books. That is Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. If you haven't read those, this is your only spoiler warning. Anything beyond Heir of Fire and other SJM works will be saved for our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks episode that airs this Thursday.
Perspective and interpretation. These are just our takes, our personal readings of the text. We don't speak for Sarah J. Maas, and we know you'll have your own interpretations too. We love hearing them, so share away.
Language. We use explicit language, and we're impulsive about it, so keep your headphones in, and anybody who might be offended or tainted away.
Let's never use the word taint again. Themes.
You think of it differently because you spent time in England.
Yeah. My mind is just themes, sex, all right? Violence and abuse and depression and self-harm and death will recur. We will do our best to flag heavier moments where we can, but listener discretion is advised.
As always, let's keep the conversation going. Tag us, DM us, or use the submission form on our website. And if you want exclusive content and live streams, you'll find us over at patreon.com/BookTok for BookTok.
Can't get enough of analysis? Make sure to check out the Subtext Society Journal, where we write think pieces discussing the romance and romantasy genre as a whole, the ongoing conversations in the bookish community, and insights on the publishing world. You can read our latest article for free with no subscription required. But to receive the new articles in the future, make sure to subscribe.
Want to be published? Head to the Subtext Society Journal.substack.com to submit your article for a chance to be a paid contributor.
Each week, we ask ourselves a question. Some weeks are better than others, and I think this is a good one. We ask ourselves, have we seen the inciting incident yet in Heir of Fire?
Themes we see in this section include mirroring, facades, and revelation of truth.
Oh, that wasn't in the list.
I know, but
Wow.
it dawned on me as I was reading the chapter summary.
No, I think that's fine. Go for it.
We start with chapter 14 this episode, and before I begin, let's remember where we're at in the story. Rowan has dared Celaena to walk through the barrows that are infested with wights. It is during the middle of the day, so he's like, this should be easy breezy. If you do this, you get to go to Dornell. I'll take you there tomorrow. So Celaena's like, yeah, I'm going to do this because everything's a waste of my time right now because I'm a cocky bastard. So what happens as she's walking through this circle of dead grass that surrounds the barrows? Quote, each step toward the central mound had Celaena's blood roaring. I thought that was interesting because, on one hand, it's like her nervousness, her heart is beating really fast, but you could also think of it as her inner fae, which is trapped in her weaker human body, roaring because she's in danger. She's willfully putting herself in danger, and the fae within her can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
What we should realize by now is that Celaena has become terrified of the dark. Can you imagine an assassin afraid of the dark? That doesn't make sense. But for Celaena, that is her truth. Part of it, in my mind, is because if we go back to what Nehemia said to her before Nehemia died, don't let that spark die out. Celaena is no longer the light in the darkness. And so she doesn't have the strength to chase that darkness away mentally. Quote, the darkness between the stained ancient stones grew, swirling. It was colder too, cold and dry. And this is just a little reminder that cold and darkness, while she's here in Mistward, are representative of the things that are closing in on her in her depression, because it's in opposition to the fire and the light that she's supposed to be harvesting within herself. Basically, they're her antithesis, and because of that, it scares her because she knows what she should be. She doesn't want to be that, but she doesn't want to deal with the darkness and the cold either.
Yeah.
And if that were not enough, the wight is watching and prowling toward her at this moment. She describes it as, quote, a ripple of ravenous hunger encased in rags. There's this interesting juxtaposition of the power of hunger and Celaena being prey versus the fact that the wight is wearing rags, which you would normally assume conveys a lack of power because of, the perception of someone is poor, wears rags.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that foreshadows that there's something else lurking here that is more powerful and more hungry than the wight.
I just love the absolute lack of description for this thing.
Yeah.
It looks like hunger in rags. What?
What does that mean?
That sounds like a 90s model, Like they were all hungry and in rags. But, and also it was like another one was like the depthless eyes. And I was like, it has eyes? What, do I not know what a wight is? Anyway, this mysterious wight is also oddly sexual. There's a lot of sexual undertones. Yeah.
It's a different thing than the wight. The wight ends up being afraid of whatever this is.
Gotcha. Thank you. So while this creepy wight that has no actual look disappears, gets freaked out, sees that something is coming and bounces. And that's because this other creepy, mysterious thing comes around. And not only is it creepy and mysterious, it's also oddly sexual. Quote, The strange dead air pushed against her ears again. Another little bit later, the breathing was louder, closer, and a chill air brushed her nose. Her lips licked along her skin. And I have one more quote. This is a couple pages later. The thing lurking behind her slid a hand over her waist, along her abdomen, pulling her back against its chest with a lover's gentleness. So this is very sexual. This is very creepy. I love it when creepy things are gentle and sexual because then it's just even more creepy and horrible. And it also reminds me of how Manon's going to interact with the wind later when we get to her chapters. There's another sexual undertone with it, but the difference is this is creepy and Celaena doesn't want it.
So with this mysterious being as sexual as it is, Celaena begins to panic and her senses are taken over and throw her back essentially into her worst memories, like the smell of the blood that surrounds them takes her back to when her parents were murdered. Quote, slaughtered like animals. The wounds were so vulgar, so gaping and deep, and her parents looked so Celaena vomited. She fell to her knees, her bladder loosening just before she vomited a second time. This is not real. This is not real, she gasped as a wet warmth soaked her pants. She couldn't breathe. There's so much here when we think about power dynamics. Her parents, who were supposed to be, among the royals, very strong fae, they've been slaughtered like animals, like pigs, essentially. And they weren't even given the honor of a gentle death. They were mutilated in disrespectful ways.
And in their PJs.
Celaena, in her human body, can't fight these visuals and the overwhelming emotions that come with it. And so her human weakness is emphasized through her bodily function. She's vomiting, she's hyperventilating, she's pissing herself. It seems a pretty weak person to me.
It's weird, or not weird, but it's funny because of how dehumanizing it is. Because dehumanizing is essentially the removal of all positive human qualities. And what she's going through is even more so. Like, being human is to be weak. And now she's dehumanized, which is even weaker than being human. And she is at an all-time low. It's even said that she, quote, was screaming or sobbing or not making any sound at all. And this is such a brutal description. Like when I imagine it, it's very visceral. And I would argue that none of the other characters, Farah or Bryce, go through anything like this specifically of just that like reaction. SJM loves to have her main characters piss themselves, but not like this. This feels extra graphic.
Yeah, exactly.
And, later on, we're going to get to Manon where she does the crossing. But I'd like to point out that this is also Celaena's crossing, mirroring Manon's, except she doesn't make it.
She does not make it because Celaena is forced to acknowledge her weakness in this state, especially with the fact Rowan's there to witness. She can't pretend this didn't happen. She tries to tell Rowan, we need to go back. I'm done with today. And Rowan says, quote, you're done when I say you're done. You can kill me or torture me or throw me off a cliff, but I am done for today. In that darkness, I saw things that no one should be able to see. It dragged me through my memories and not the decent ones. Is that not enough for you? He spat out a noise and got to his feet and began walking. She staggered and stumbled, knees trembling, and kept moving after him all the way into the halls of Mistward, where she angled her body so that none of the passing sentries or workers could see her soiled pants, the vomit. I think this moment's interesting, and we're going to see it again a little bit later in the episode, where Rowan attempts dominance, but when Celaena threatens self-harm or harm to herself, he's decent enough to let it go. Like, she's miserable enough that he's like, okay, fine. Even though he doesn't like it, he gives in. The description of Celaena also reminds me of a fawn on shaky legs as they travel back to Mistward. Just, again, emphasizing her weakness and her shame. She tries to hide that shame from others in the fortress, even though she can't hide it from Rowan because he saw everything. And like Jac said, she's very low. And if this isn't her lowest, at least since Endovier, I don't know what is.
Yep. The dynamic between Rowan and Celaena is interesting because it's all happening off screen, too. A lot of this is happening off screen. We get these moments of Rowan hissed and bickered at her. He glared at her. And then you even have these conversations that aren't fully happening when they're just using it with their eyes. Quote, when his eyes met her again, he seemed to say, that thing should not have been there. Then what the hell was it? You stupid bastard, she silently shot back. Now, I also want to note this is some groundwork for later on romantic vibes. Because, I don't know. I have thoughts. I have thoughts in the sense of, I'm going to go into later about how I think it's kind of not weak writing, but it's just not the best of everything happening offline.
Yeah.
It's shit like this. I remember my point now. It's shit like this that makes Rowan feel like a not developed character.
Yeah.
Because it's all happening off screen.
Yep. Exactly.
Rowan then takes Celaena to the female baths, not caring who's there, and that she then collapses into one of the tubs. Now, I've talked a lot about the concept of bathing being baptismal and cleansing of sins, and I think that it's significant that this is honestly the first big bath scene that we get in this book, especially after getting a glimpse of her past that she considers to be her own sins. I think the fact that we get her in a bath kind of signifies, these aren't your sins, babe. You're okay. But because it's a public bath, because we're not actually getting all of it, it's just, again, a quick thing happening. It's not a full cleansing of sins.
Let's take a sip.
Yeah.
We turn to Chaol's point of view at the start of chapter 15, and his father, Lord Westfall, has come to meet him. And, the power dynamics are what you would expect, knowing Chaol and his father. Quote, Chaol wasn't at all surprised that his father was 20 minutes late to their meeting, nor was he surprised when his father strode into Chaol's office, slid into the chair opposite his desk, and offered no explanation for his tardiness. With calculated, cool, and distaste, he surveyed the office. What we're seeing with this pointed tardiness is that the Lord of Aniel is the boss. This is a boss move that anybody in corporate understands. He's not showing respect to Chaol because Chaol has lowered himself to captain of the guard. Why are you laughing?
That anyone in corporate understands. It's funny because, yeah, I do. I know exactly. You fucking showed up to this meeting late.
Yep.
Don't care about my schedule. That just
my
hit home.
time.
Yeah. No, that just was very triggering.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Daddy is not impressed with what Chaol has achieved as captain of the guard. Quote, this is what our illustrious king gives the captain of his guard. Chaol shrugged, and his father studied the heavy oak desk. A desk he'd inherited from his predecessor, and one on which he and Celaena he shut down the memory before it could boil his blood. So first off, Chaol has secondhand furniture. Chaol's practical. It makes sense. Very true to his character. The captain of the guard shouldn't be sitting at a desk all day anyway. But in this moment, recognizing that it's secondhand does come across as a little self-conscious, even though the narrative is not telling us that he's anxious or self-conscious about the secondhand furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Then the intrusive thought about Celaena, his mind is wandering. To me, that's a sign of Chaol's mind trying to demonstrate that he's powerful. I fucked a woman on this desk. I'm a boss man. And that rebellious thought is in retaliation of what his father is doing. His father is trying to assert dominance. And in Chaol's mind, he's asserting dominance to himself.
Interesting.
But because it ends up actually being more distracting than powerful, he has to push it away.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like it. I like that interpretation.
I don't think we really see Chaol think about having sex with Celaena ever again.
He thought about it at one point, I think, before, but this whole scene, to me, doesn't feel very Chaol. And the next several chapters don't feel very Chaol. He kind of starts taking on Celaena, or as I call it, Celaena cosplay, at one point later this episode. And even this room feels off to me. Quote, that there was a rug, an open trunk of discarded weapons that Chaol had never found the time to polish or send for repairs. That does not feel like Chaol.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who is all about honor, who is type A, stick up his ass, that was his whole thing, right? Now, I'm trying to figure out, is this one of those things where this is now the Chaol that we get post Celaena? Or is this kind of reverse character development that I feel like is kind of sloppy work, if that's the case? I am choosing to believe that this is a post Celaena Chaol and that now he's sloppy.
Yeah, I agree in the sense that I think that this is a post-Celaena Chaol who's really questioning his choices, but doesn't want to acknowledge he's questioning his choices. And he's putting on the facade of this is who Chaol is. But I don't think he knows who Chaol is anymore.
No.
Because he keeps failing. He is not the Chaol of book one anymore. He really genuinely is not demonstrating honor. He is not calm and collected. He can't even control his guards. He can't even find Aedion. Quote, Chaol had dropped by Aedion's party, another tavern, even more expensive, even more packed. Aedion wasn't there again. Somehow everyone thought the general was there. And this is really emphasizing just how low Chaol is in his own right. He's not Celaena level low, right? He's not reliving his parents' murder, but this is Chaol like we've never seen him. And what we're seeing is both Chaol's father, Lord Westfall, and Aedion have the upper hand over Chaol. Chaol doesn't have Celaena to rely on. He doesn't have Dorian's friendship to rely on. And so he's kind of left to his own devices.
Yeah.
What I love about the Aedion element is that even though Aedion's kind of supposed to be like a prisoner of war and a turned general, he's still able to utilize money and information to make himself invisible, which not only demonstrates his power, but also makes us question Chaol's abilities. Like,
yeah,
who is this guy?
His dad. A dish. Who's this guy of Chaol's dad? Who's Chaol? Because again, he is so off base. Like, he is trailing Aedion, which is such a Celaena thing. He's going about it in such a creepy way. Not creepy, but secretive way.
Yeah.
And that's not a Chaol move. And he's in Celaena cosplay.
Exactly. Because I think Chaol of book one would just go up to Aedion in public and say, I keep trying to track you down at your parties and you're not there. Where the fuck have you been?
Yeah. He'd call him out, or he'd have his own guys go look for him or something.
Exactly. So if Chaol isn't feeling great, Lord Westfall makes sure to dig the knife deeper to make it hurt more. Quote, rumor has it you consider yourself a man of honor, though I wonder what manner of man you truly are if you don't honor your bargains. So this is alluding to the fact that Chaol promised he would go to Aniel in exchange for his father's assistance getting Celaena to Wendlin. But now Chaol's like, I need 4 weeks, Daddy. I need to find my replacement. And so this is Lord Westfall saying a man of honor doesn't like make a bargain and then add additional conditions after the fact. It's similar to what I said last week. Chaol's not the same man we met earlier in the series, and he's had a significant fall from grace. If he's lost his honor, what does Chaol even have left?
I love this scene because in a couple chapters, Chaol is going to tell Aedion about Celaena/Aelin. And he calls it the biggest gamble of his life. And as a reader, we're going to get excited because Aedion's going to know his cousin's alive. However, that is a really fucked up, scary thing to have done, which I don't think Chaol would have done if he hadn't lost his honor. If his dad wasn't here pointing out how he has no honor left in him.
Especially when his honor made him withhold the details about Nehemia.
Yeah.
From Celaena, that Celaena believes if she had known, she could have saved Nehemia, right?
Yeah.
So this is a huge 180 for Chaol to be like, the king talking to Nehemia shouldn't have been information he kept guarded.
No.
Whereas Aelin's identity,
you keep that guarded. You figure out more about Aedion. Just because he's working with the rebels. Archer was working with the rebels and wanted to use Aelin. Like, that's not an excuse to say, we'll get to it. You know what? I'm going to pause on this.
Chaol knows that bargaining for time before leaving for Aniel is going to cost him, though his father asserts that, quote, Oh, there's no price, but I think I like the idea of you owing me a favor. That dead smile returned. I like that idea very much. 2 months, boy. They did not bother with goodbyes. In bargaining for more time, Chaol has given even more of his power away. Not only does he have to uphold the first bargain anyway, by going to Aniel eventually, now he owes his father, and he doesn't even know what he's going to owe his father. And that is something that's going to hang over his head. I don't think it's coincidence that this is happening in the scene right after we see Celaena at her weakest. I think this is in some ways the quote unquote weakest we've ever seen Chaol. And it feels intentional that Celaena and Chaol are being mirrored in this occasion.
Yep. Good.
Oh, and I thought I was really witty when I wrote that. Not witty, but dramatic. I don't know. Who will rise to the occasion and who will continue to stumble? I was really feeling myself yesterday when I wrote
that. Good
that.
job. I breezed past that. I didn't even see it now, and I didn't see it then, but chills. I am impressed with his dad. I respect his dad. I think it's like,
I do too.
we can't get mad at the fact that he's better at this, you know?
Yeah.
But what I also, I mean, again, I'm not saying that I like what he's doing. It's shitty, but, you know, if I was going to be a villain, I'd look to him.
Yep.
So Daddy gives Chaol a letter and he says, quote, "Your mother sent you a letter. I suppose she's expressing her joy at your anticipated return." So I love it because we already know that his dad views his mom to be weaker and just generally shitty because he talks shit to her. But he's using that weakness as a weapon. And it's always like, well, then how can it be a weakness if you're able to use it as a weapon? Just like when guys are like, "You're a fat, ugly bitch." It's like, you were hitting on me a minute ago. You're insulting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a spoiler for later in the series, but I think it's important now because we're speaking about Lord Westfall's manipulation. I think this is a test from Lord Westfall because, spoiler, Lord Westfall has been withholding Chaol's letters from his mother, and he's been withholding his mother's letters from Chaol. And so when Chaol turns down the letter because he's trying to not show interest or weakness and he feels scorned by his mother, then Lord Westfall knows he did a good job. Like, he severed the bond that he felt needed to be severed.
He's a very successful villain.
He is a successful villain. He's probably the most successful villain in this series.
Kinda, yeah.
Take a sip.
Yep.
We move on to Sorsha's point of view again, and she's hyper aware of Dorian's physical presence. And I love this for a number of reasons. But let me give you some examples. Quote, "Traitorous heat flooded her again." This is when, like, Dorian is around.
Mm-hmm.
And she's healing his cut lip. Yeah, that's what's happening. Quote, "His scented soap caressed her nose." Quote, "His breath caressing her finger. Oh gods, his lips were soft."
There's so much caressing happening in this episode.
So much. And last one, quote, "His legs brushing the skirt of her brown homespun dress." Look, I get it. Like, having a crush on someone and they're close enough and you're like, oh, they touched the hem of my clothing for a reason. No, but actually maybe yes in this case.
Yeah.
It feels very intimate, and I do really empathize with Sorsha. She's got it bad. I've been there. I get it.
Yeah.
But what I love about this, it's not just about Sorsha's infatuation. It is and it isn't. And what do I mean? By being infatuated and hyperfixated, especially when we're in Sorsha's point of view, SJM is able to avoid revealing Sorsha's secrets because Sorsha has secrets. But because she's so enamored with Dorian, that's all she's thinking about. It's very realistic. It's very clever to help keep Sorsha's narrative away from thinking about the rebels that she works with.
Yep. Good point. So a little earlier, the quote you read right before that, Saoirse talks about having been with a man before and that she was with one of the guards. But she makes it clear that it's only been one man and that she never felt like the need to do it again afterwards. And I have conflicted feelings when authors do this because it's their attempt of removing a power play. It's their attempt of being like, she's not a virgin. So not that like it's okay or that it's worse if she was a virgin or anything, but like if she was a virgin, it would have this power dynamic there. But you're still getting this virginal, pure thing going on for her because she's only been with one guy. She wasn't a huge fan of it. And then meanwhile, Dorian has been with countless women. And it's just like, I see it a lot when authors are trying to be like, she doesn't sleep around, but she's not a virgin. She slept with one guy one time. And it's like, well, you're still keeping all of the virginal traits.
How would you do it differently?
Let her have had sex more. Like, just like, does naivety with the rebels have to equate with naivety in the rest of her life? Because right now, she has a naivety with Dorian, right? Like, she has a crush. She's really excited. She doesn't need to be naive. Having a crush doesn't make you naive. Like, she is very much aware in many ways of being like, oh my God, this is the prince and I'm touching his lips and stuff. But then there's also a naivety when it comes to this, her helping, with the letters and the rebels on accident, right? And why is it that we have to equate virginity and purity with this doe in the headlights? I don't know things.
So I have an opinion about this.
Go ahead.
There is something about Saoirse that, despite all the odds, believes that there's always going to be a favorable outcome.
Yeah.
Especially, we're going to see it in the next scene that she's in when she's like, I'm going to help you get your magic under control.
Yeah.
Like, bitch, do you know what you're doing? Like, really? But she doesn't even bat an eye. She's just like, we're going to do this because that's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that naivete is necessary, and it is tied to naivete when it comes to physical experience, because maybe this is misogynist of me or not. I can't decide. But I feel like a woman who has slept around with more men would be more jaded about men.
I don't agree. I mean, like, I think a woman who might have had more male partners has had more experience to potentially have seen different ways of, I mean, it's so individual, right? Like, is it a woman who's had a lot of men that she chose to be with every single one and, she runs that shit? Is a woman who hasn't slept with a lot of men but has witnessed a lot of shitty men do treat the women around her really shitty? Do you know what I mean? And that's what I mean by, like, we don't have to have sex to be an association of being jaded, being naive. Like, there are plenty of people who we know, who have not had a lot of physical experience who are so jaded with men.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't have to do with sex. So I agree that there's realms of naivety that she has to have.
Mm-hmm.
I, in general, just kind of get tired when they do this, like, she's had sex with one person, so it's like, quote unquote, okay, as if we're trying to, like, there's something we're trying to be like, she's not a virgin like Celaena was or something like that. Like, she's grown. But at the same time, it's like, why is it we have to have this almost virginal, like, pure character in this other, like, why is sexual purity have to equate to purity of the heart and her mind?
I mean, it's a fair question, completely.
I have no answer. I was just generally like, oh, I just hate when I see it. I've gotten more annoyed with it the older I get. I feel like Saoirse's and Dorian's relationship is tragic, obviously, for many obvious reasons. But particularly, it was tragic from the get-go because of the imbalance of power and just imbalance in general. Quote, she was an apprentice in hand-me-down clothes, but for a moment, he looked at her and smiled. He'd seen her when no one else had for years, so she found excuses to be in the upper levels of the castle. The basis of her attraction is the cute boy noticed me.
Yeah.
And maybe this isn't meant to be love, like a big, like, love story. And I know that her death is very tragic, but I think her life and her love in general for him is tragic because it was never based on the character, more of an evaluation of her self-worth. Here's a man who even looked at her, therefore I now have self-worth, therefore I am into him. And the same thing comes with Dorian. He looks at her and he feels like he's a man and can take control, and he now has self-worth. The premise of both of their attraction for one another comes from what they're able to get and finding self-worth from the other.
Yeah, and that should not be the basis of a relationship.
That's why she should die.
Or not. Let's take a sip. Moving on to chapter 16, we are back with the Iron Teeth clans, and this is not a sentence you might expect from Manon. Quote, "Of all the spaces in the Omega, the mess hall was by far the most dangerous." Now, we know that the Iron Teeth witches are training with wyverns, with weapons, they're training in warfare, but the place where food is provided, the only time that all the clans cross paths, that is the greatest risk. Because it's a place where people can jeer and goad each other when otherwise they would be separated. What I like about this is that, we talk about food being a source of power, but instead of that food providing power, it's the backdrop to the inner politics and the fight for dominance among all the witches.
First, I love the idea that it's just a bunch of witches in a cafeteria. And in my mind, there's like a cafeteria lady and they have like plastic trays that they're moving around. And I know that's probably not what it is, but that's what it looks like to me. But I also love this pissing match between the clans because that fact, like you were saying, that it does happen in the mess hall. It does provide a backdrop. This place that should be powerful is messy. And it reminds me a lot of like Animals at a Watering Hole, where that is the most dangerous time for animals.
That's a great point. Makes me think of Nat Geo documentaries about the safari or something.
That is exactly what I had in my mind.
What is going on here is everybody is anxious about being the first and getting the best wyvern. And even Manon is among those individuals, and she's not willing to admit just how badly she wants it. Quote, "Everyone wanted a bull, though Manon fully expected to get one, perhaps even Titus. It didn't keep her from wanting to punch out the teeth of anyone who even whispered about coveting a bull of her own. Her temper was on a tight leash these days." What I love about this, SGM does her best writing when she writes about Manon.
Yeah.
Because instead of saying Manon was anxious about getting Titus to be her wyvern, she doesn't. She doesn't talk about anxiety because anxiety is weakness. So she demonstrates that anxiety through action. But it requires you as the reader to read between the lines. I don't know. I think it's fantastic.
I mean, genuinely, Manon saves this book. And not just for plot, but like for writing technique and character growth.
I agree. As long as we're reading Manon's behaviors and the behaviors of the witches around her, that's how we understand what is happening internally. And that's good writing. There's one amusing comment from Manon that I just had to call out. Quote, "Witches didn't need blood to survive, but humans didn't need wine either." It easily conveys to readers how drinking human blood is both an indulgence and an addiction, which also makes the witches feel very powerful, not just because they're drinking their blood, but equating it to wine, where you get grapes and you smush them.
Yeah.
It just makes me think of smushing humans down into liquid form.
It would be efficient. I mean, I love it because it's like, like the fact that it can be an addiction and indulgence. Like it does dance a fine line where, a nice glass of wine versus like someone just absolutely committing murder. Yeah. Murder on their liver.
That's right. Manon and Iskra, who's the heir to the Yellow Lakes clan, have a run-in in the mess hall, as we would expect. Manon does her best to not provoke a physical confrontation so that she won't be punished / humiliated by her grandmother. So, what does she do? She uses verbal insults. And the verbal insult she chooses is to equate Iskra to a supply driver for the army. Now, when the witches are training for battle and glory, of course, being a supply driver would put her on the lowest rung of the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Manon could have done better,
Yeah.
but I understand what SGM was trying to achieve.
Yeah. I do hate it when authors need to to have a really clever, witty line. We have an author friend, and one time she was telling me, she was working on a book and I was reading it. She was like, I'm trying to do something where the character's more clever than me and I'm really struggling. A few questions I have on The Crossing. What the fuck does it look like? Is it just a giant gap in
I think
between?
so.
Okay. So why is it so dangerous when we're told that the wyverns can, quote, cross on instinct alone? That's where I'm like, what are we doing? Because it's also described as that it's a sheer plunge between the two mountain peaks, the final test for a rider to mount. So how is it a test if the wyverns kind of have this covered? Other than holding on, and they make a joke you better hold on for dear life, but I don't know. It just was, that's all.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
I just go with it.
I am. And I'm just waiting for someone else to send us a no at this point to say, hey.
Yeah, I wonder if it's about the angle of the drop and the ascent back up.
It's called Farron's Peak or Fern's Peak.
The Farian Gap.
The Farian Gap. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Because I saw something online.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't have any recollection of how. So basically, it's just you go straight down between two things. There's a little thing at the bottom that you can get through. It's like a W.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's physics involved, right? Because if you're falling, eventually you reach terminal velocity, which is so fast. And then they have to be able to do a U-turn to fight gravity. I don't know.
Then don't call it The Crossing. Call it The Great U-Turn.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone has come to watch the 13 take to the skies for the first time with their wyverns, and most people are hoping they fail. And by fail, we mean the wyvern and the rider hit the ground and die. We see Manon in her true element for the first time since we've met her. This thing she's longed for a decade that was the first thing we knew about her. And when she gets to the sky, quote, the wind caressed and sang to her, telling her of its currents, more an instinct than a magical gift. Which, when I read that, I was like, it feels like she's being greeted by an old lover, which goes back to Jac's point from before.
Yep, that it brings it back to Celaena, except while Celena's was a creepy thing, this is an old lover. Just a nice, gentle wind caress.
We know that this wind caressing situation is bringing joy to Manon, but like her anxiety, she keeps that information contained and restrained.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's more restrained than her negative emotions like her anger.
Yeah.
Quote, keeping that wild exuberance locked up tight in her chest. That's one thing I always think about. Why are the witches not allowed to have joy? And is it because it's purely perceived as a weakness or something that can be taken away?
You show that you enjoy something that's now something that you can hold over you, right? You are happy about it. Oh, I can take that away then. I can control your happiness. Yeah. So they can't have anything. Although the general, I am happy, remind me of my birthday in the back of the car. I'm happy. I have reached too much joy. That's not what Manon was going through.
My body shut down.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, guys.
Oh, yeah. Amy got her ring.
I got my ring.
Hell yeah. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. I do love staring at it. Okay. For all of those who are wondering, go look at the YouTube video.
Yeah. I was like, did we post the engagement on your YouTube video? No. I see what happened here.
We see this interesting moment when Manon meets with her grandmother alone later in the day. The matron of the Blackbeak clan is like, Manon, you did a great job. You need to be in charge. You need to be wing leader. And when the matron tells Manon, you flew well, quote, Manon's chest swelled, but she said, it's my honor to serve you, grandmother. But she said, but is like a bitch slap. One of our writing professors taught us.
Anytime you hear but, everything before that is voided.
Exactly. Well, and in this case, it's afterward.
Yeah.
What Manon is saying subtly is that her chest swells, but not because it's an honor to serve her grandmother. It's an honor to serve you, grandmother, is just lip service. Manon herself feels pride and knows that she's done well, that she flew well, but she keeps on that mask of servitude. I think it's important to notice this moment because this, to me, is a little defiance that informs Manon's choices later in this book, as well as in Queen of Shadows, when she goes against her grandmother's wishes. Any subservience to her grandmother they're just words. They're not tied to how she really feels or what she really wants. And I think that's important for us to start recognizing.
Yep.
It's also important to point out that when Manon argues that she doesn't need Astrid watching her back all the time, Matron Blackbeak tells her, quote, Baba Yellowlegs was 700 years old. She tore down the walls of the Kraken capital with her bare hands, and yet someone slipped into her wagon and murdered her. I don't know how I feel about this, because this makes Baba Yellowlegs so much stronger than the Baba Yellowlegs we met in Crown of Midnight.
Yep.
Now, this could be legend, this could be hearsay, this could be hyperbolic. What I feel like SJM may be trying to do is impress us as readers that, like, oh, you thought she was strong before. Well, let me reveal information that takes it to a whole other level. I don't know that it works for me unless SJM's intention was only to make the witches revere Baba Yellowlegs. And I don't know what she wants.
It has to be that it makes the witches, we have to revere the witches, because in the grand scheme, or who Celaena was battling in the previous book, Baba Yellowlegs was very low on that list. She had a lot more impressive, even compared to book 1, there was a lot more impressive things that she had to fight off. It was a good fight. She had to fight. But the only thing scary about fighting Baba Yellowlegs is the fact that she's been marked by the witches. And this feels a little bit like almost lip service from SJM. Like, she's so strong. Because then I'm like, what is she? Are you telling us we need to revere her? Or are you telling us that Celaena is, in fact, that strong?
Exactly. I don't know what SJM intended. I'm not inclined to think positively of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What she is doing, which is a good reminder, is that reminding us that Baba Yellowlegs exists, since that quote-unquote necklace of scars around Celaena's neck is going to be referenced in a couple of chapters. And maybe that's all this is about, is that setup. But
I said my piece.
Let's take a sip. We are in chapter 17, and it's the morning after Celaena has gotten the shit beat out of her by Rowan, and she's been scared witless by an unknown baddie, and she's in a lot of pain. But she downplays it like the badass she is. Quote, she looked worse 2 years ago when Arobin had beaten her to a bloody pulp for disobeying his orders. This was nothing compared to how mangled she'd been then.
Okay, before Amy makes her note, I would just like to say, I will be your father figure. Put your tiny hands in mine. I will be your preacher teacher, anything you have in mind. This is the beginning of associating Rowan as her father figure, Arobin. All right. Can't wait.
It's true. It's right there on the page.
It's there. I'm not even reaching.
Yeah, no, so true. Now, her thoughts about Arobin and being beaten by Arobin and how it's not as bad as that, it sounds more to me like she's trying to convince herself rather than her believing that to be true. And it feels more like Celaena trying to excuse Rowan's behavior. Also, by downplaying the pain that Celaena is in and the damage to her body, Celaena downplays how low she is and how humiliated she feels. Like, girl was humiliated yesterday. She was super dehumanized, and she has no one to blame but herself. And she is a prideful being. Celaena is proud. She's Aderlin's greatest assassin, and she got her ass handed to her. Mentally, she's trying to tell herself everything's fine. It was intentional. It's not even that bad. Eventually, though, when she's interacting with other people in the fortress, she does admit the truth to herself, even if she lies to everybody else. Quote, "It looks worse than it feels." A lie. Her head was still pounding from the cut on her brow, and her eye was deeply bruised beneath. She just doesn't know how to be honest.
No, she's not being honest to herself. And later on, I'm going to bitch about that more, of just how not honest she's being. But before I get to there is this moment where she's talking to Luca and she tells him, like, "I've been through worse," and quote, "She silently invited him to do the calculations. A life in Aderlin with Fey blood, a life in Aderlin as a woman." His face paled. What I found interesting is the life in Aderlin as a woman part, because it's implying that there's more violence against women in Aderlin than in other places. And then I'm like, well, is that widely known? Is it like she came to this kingdom? They're like, "Oh, hello, you're free." I mean, I know sort of, because we saw the group of women in the refugee boat at the very beginning that left. But like, is that enough for me? I don't know. I feel like maybe you don't need to prove that Aderlin is bad. We already know Aderlin's bad. I need to know that women are in fact safer here in a place where she was just punched. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair. Because it's not like respect to women has been bred into them if Rowan doesn't give a shit and punches her out of nowhere.
Right? Like, it's just kind of like, they know what they do to women in Aderlin. Thank God I'm safe here. Do you like my black eye? They believe in feminism here. They punch the women with equality.
That's a really great point.
Thank you. Grab a snack, stretch your legs, and listen to this while we plot our next move. I'm visiting my mom for the holidays, and she has so many plans for us. I am going to be running around the entire time. There's no rest here. And thank God I have my Vionic Walk Slim glides, because they make my feet so comfy when I'm running around with her.
I love the look of the Winnie sneakers. They're perfect. They're timeless. And because they're stylish and comfortable, I feel comfortable wearing them all day long at work and when I go out.
I can't express enough how much I love the Uptown loafer too, because 1, loafers make me feel incredible and classy. 2, it's also very comfortable, which makes me feel incredible.
What makes these shoes so great is Vionic's exclusive VO motion technology. They began by revolutionizing medical orthotics, which are expensive. They've taken that technology to engineer shoes that leave you feeling energized and confident all day.
They even offer a 30-day guarantee. Wear them, love them, or return them for a full refund within 30 days.
Use code BookTok at checkout for 15% off your entire order at vionicshoes.com when you log into your account. One-time use only.
That's code BookTalk, BOOKTALK, at checkout for 15% off your entire order. Vionic shoes, wearable well-being for your feet. The first time I got Olive and June, their press-on nails changed everything for me. I have stopped going to the nail salon because of their press-ons.
I get so many compliments on my Olive and June press-on nails that I've stocked up with maybe 24 sets just to have so that I can change them at any time.
Seriously, whenever people comment my nails, like, "Oh, thank you, it's Olive and June press-ons," and they are always amazed with it. And if you want a manicure, that's great, because Olive and June has everything you need for a salon-quality manicure in one box. Salon-grade tools designed just for a DIY experience.
It is so much more affordable than manicures at the salon. And trust me, you won't miss the appointments or having to travel to the salon to get your perfect manicure.
You get to customize your box with choices of 6 different polishes. This polish doesn't chip and it lasts for 7 days or more. When you break it down, that's just $2 a manicure.
I honestly wear my press-ons for 14 days and I only change them because I want a new color.
That's so funny. I do that too, because they have so many cute colors.
They have so many options. They have so many different sizes. You can find the perfect fit. and get different colors or styles for that one fit. They're easy to remove and legitimately do not hurt my nails the way a traditional gel manicure does.
But if you want a gel manicure, they have a whole gel mani system. It comes with everything you need for salon quality nails in one box. So that means it comes with a 5-finger LED lamp, salon grade tools, and their HEMA free gel polish that lasts up to 21 days. So even if you're a gel polish girly, they've got you.
Visit oliveandjune.com/booktalk for 20% off your first gel system.
That's oliveandjune.com/BOOKTALK for 20% off your first gel system. Amy, we're both in the middle of revising our books and we do not have time to cook.
The last thing I want to do is get off the couch and think about lighting my stovetop.
That's why you and I love Factor. Their chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals make it easier to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious no matter how hectic the season gets or how hectic book revisions get.
I love that they have a wider selection of weekly meal options than ever before, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost, which is a huge thing right now for our health.
I'm on a GLP-1 and it really matters what I eat because it can hurt my tummy. And they have GLP-1 friendly meals and new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good for you fats.
And if you know me and Jac, we basically eat Asian food all the time. We're so excited for their Asian-inspired meals with bold flavors from China and Thailand and India and elsewhere.
From more choices to better nutrition, that's why 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. Feel the difference no matter your routine.
And I certainly do when I have Factor. So eat smart at factormeals.com/booktalk50 off and use the code booktalk50 off, BOOKTALK 50OFF to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year.
That's code booktalk50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor.
Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. While Celaena is around other members of the fortress, she notices that, quote, the warriors looked her way the most, men and women both, wariness and curiosity mingling. I wonder, is this meant to be meaningful? Is it just pointing out that women are part of the warriors? Is it the warriors recognize another warrior?
I don't know. I found it to be interesting because when she looks at the sentinels, that their cloaks are worse for wear. And to me, it's showing a lack of respect that Maeve has for Mistward in general.
Yeah, which is fair. Whatever Celaena is thinking, she is feisty and standoffish as fuck. And she's not willing to take shit from anyone, including Emers's mate. Now, again, if it's not that big of a deal, why are you salty?
Yeah.
So Malachi tries to talk to Celaena. Celaena bites back. Quote, Malachi's grin faded. My mate works too much as it is. You don't add to that burden. Understand? I don't blame Malachi for saying this, but it is comments like this that are going to reinforce to Celaena how shitty she feels about herself.
Yeah.
Here she is, someone she doesn't know, calling her a burden. And she does feel that, even though she doesn't necessarily acknowledge it in this moment.
Yeah.
She does think of herself as like scum of the earth.
No, Malachi came in way too hot.
He really did.
It's like, oh, would you like to say that again as I'm washing dishes?
Yeah.
Am I adding here?
Yeah, adding to the burden? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'm not going to read the quote, but when Rowan is trying to get Celaena to shift, she keeps thinking about, it's not that she's like intentionally thinking about self-harm, but there's just these comments in the narrative that like the only way I'm going to be able to shift is if you cut my ears. And there's all these allusions to self-harm, which I think are intentional and we need to point out.
I agree.
Now, after a day of training, Celaena is hungry and she thinks everyone is done with dinner, gone from the kitchen. So when she goes down to get food, she actually finds everyone there getting ready to tell stories around the hearth. Celaena sees Luca and a girl she doesn't know, and notices the mischief in Luca's eyes as he looks at his companion. Quote, Celaena had looked at Chaol with that same expression, but their relationship had never been as unburdened. And even if she hadn't ended things, it never would have been like that. The ring on her finger became a weight.
I agree with the first half of that it wasn't that unburdened. Well, because it was 1 week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it hadn't been unburdened in that 1 week. 2, saying that it wouldn't have been either way, it wouldn't have been like that. I don't have the evidence of her believing this. I don't have the evidence of her coming to the conclusion of Chaol and I could have never worked.
Yeah, I agree. I could see how this could be something she's thought a lot about on her trip from Adelin to Wendland, but we weren't there for it.
That mysterious trip that we weren't there for, yeah.
We weren't there for it. And I agree. There's no evidence to say that she's thought a lot about this. To me, what this is it's just about trying to mirror what happened with Chaol and his father, and the
Yeah.
fact that Chaol thought about Celaena and it was a distraction. And for Celaena, it's more than a distraction. It's a burden. Thinking
Yeah.
about him and that what could have been or couldn't have been is a burden to her.
It being a burden 100%. Like we saw in the beginning, she would she would gamble off her ring and then get it back one way or another. And she's looked at that ring a couple times. Like it is 100% a burden. It's a burden without progression.
Yeah, I agree.
And except for comments like these, where we've now forced a progression.
Yeah, I'm going to take a sip.
Okay.
Yeah, to your point, I feel like, as you said earlier in the episode, there's just so much happening off screen.
Yeah.
So that when comments like this happen, SJM could be like, well, Celaena's been thinking about it for XYZ amount of time. And we can be like, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. This is part of the reason why I struggle with multiple POVs beyond 2.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there is so much that has to be left off the page.
Yeah.
So everyone's gathered around the hearth, and Emma starts to tell a scary tale about skin crawlers, and Celaena thinks, quote, if she'd heard this story with the wretched creatures who delighted in skin sewing and bone crunching and lightning crisping before traveling here with Rowan, she never would have followed him. I'm gonna call her bluff because I actually think the opposite.
Yeah.
I think that if Rowan had bothered to tell her the story, Celaena would be like, I've faced worse.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
What is happening is I think this is actually the first time we're seeing Celaena humbled. Like the fact that she can even think, oh, like that sounds terrifying. I don't think I would want to face that is a change for her.
Mm-hmm.
And what's caused that? Is it because of Rowan, her lack of magic, or being beaten down time and time again? Could be all the above. I think it's priming her. It's like tenderizing a steak. Just beating the shit out of it so it's ready for what comes next.
Exactly.
Okay, another question. Do we believe the way Celaena figures out that the hawk outside the kitchen is Rowan?
Continue. Say your quote and I'll give you my answer.
Okay. Quote, a large white-tailed hawk was perched in the shadows. It sat absolutely still. But the hawk's eyes, there was something strange about them. She'd seen that hawk before. It had watched her for days as she lazed on that rooftop in Varys. Watched her drink and steal and doze and brawl. At least she now knew what Rowan's animal form was. What she didn't know was why he bothered to listen to these stories.
Yes, it's for a reader, it might be obvious. So therefore we need her to figure it out and to show that she's clever. But just like everything so far with this book, particularly with Celaena and anything surrounding her, it's just that one extra step that we keep missing.
Yep. Everything feels rushed.
Yeah.
Now, when Emerson and Luca call on Celaena to tell a story from her lands, Celaena freezes up. Quote, but she had no right to tell those stories as if they were her own, and she could not remember them correctly, not as they had been told at her bedside. I actually liked this moment. It signals to readers how little not only Celaena thinks of herself, but that underlying guilt she feels for leaving her people. Like, I can't even remember the stories properly. I should have no right to tell them because I didn't stay with them.
Yeah.
And that sentiment is brought to the surface after Rowan has taunted her about abandoning her people. So her self-hatred is now starting to seep into the narrative. And I like that we get this right before we get Aedion's perspective,
Yeah.
because there are some parallels there.
She was just a child. Why are we holding a child accountable for remembering things? If I was supposed to remember a story that was told to me when I was 8 before an extremely traumatic event,
Yeah. No.
no. I also just love like the hype that SJM puts around the storytelling aspect. It
Mhm.
feels like a little nod to the art of the novel.
Yeah. It's meta.
Meta. Sip.
Yeah. Okay. It is chapter 18. We're back with Dorian from Dorian's point of view, and he is seeking out Sorsha after training. And it's cute. I genuinely think it's cute, even though it's problematic for reasons we've already discussed. Now, Dorian is not book 1 Dorian. In some ways, personally, I feel like he's becoming book 1 Chaol because of the way he's been acting, because Chaol's not acting like Chaol. Quote, he'd begun to spar with the guards in the mornings. It was about as fun as lying on a bed of hot nails, but at least it gave him something to do with the reckless, anxious energy that hounded him day and night. Unlike Chaol, who's fixated on Aedion, who is, by the way, Chaol's new Celaena, Dorian is replacing Chaol among his guards. And I don't think that that's intentional, but I could see how Dorian subconsciously is trying to be more of what he considers a better man.
Mm-hmm.
And Chaol used to be the better man. And so he's going to mimic Chaol as much as he can. That doesn't stop his pride from peeking through, which I also, again, think is similar to Chaol.
Yeah.
When Sorsha says she can't do much for his sprained wrist, but put it in a sling, Dorian says, quote, gods, no sling. I'll never hear the end of it from the guards. We even see some of Chaol's old honor peeking through. Dorian knows he's making Sorsha flustered, and we know Sorsha gets flustered when Dorian's proximity is close. And confirmation, he knows exactly what he's doing, and he enjoys it. What I appreciate is that he also knows that, quote, if he'd sensed that she was truly uncomfortable, he'd have kept his distance. And that feels more honorable than Dorian of book 1 to me. I don't know that Dorian of book 1 would have cared.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that he was skeezy, but
He was.
he was.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair.
Yeah.
One thing that hasn't changed about Dorian, though, is his need to feel important. As he's thinking about Sorsha, he thinks, quote, and when she said, because I had nowhere else to go. For a second, it hadn't been Sorsha, but Celaena, broken with grief and loss and rage, coming to his room because there was nowhere else to turn to. It's like you can hear him getting hard. You have no one else and I'm the one that you're coming to? Oh, yeah. Now, when I say that Sorsha is a replacement for Celaena, I don't mean like I'm in love with Sorsha now because I no longer have Celaena. I mean that our boy needs to have a reason to find purpose and to be useful. And Sorsha's perfect. Like, Celaena was never going to be it. He goes and gets her thinking that he's her savior, getting her out of being a slave.
Yeah.
And very quickly, he realizes that he is no protector of Celaena. So what's someone that's even more vulnerable? Someone who works for the castle.
Yeah.
I do like the moment, though, that he gets exposed with his powers and the reason why he explodes with his powers. He thinks about the tunnels, he's thinking about the monster, and then, quote, kept hearing Fleetfoot's pained bark, seeing Chaol choose to sacrifice himself so they could get away. Sorsha stroked the length of her dark braid, and he'd probably killed the captain, too. His magic erupted. Now, it's giving Tamlin. Tamlin exploding with his powers and hurting Farah.
Okay.
Anytime that someone explodes with powers and unintentionally, it hurts the people that they're with. I just think about Tamlin and I'm like, you guys, we got to like point out some of the similarities here. But it's interesting that Chaol's the thing that's like the final straw that erupts, which is sweet. It's reminding us that they do care about each other.
I love it because Chaol's going to do something similar
Yeah.
in a couple chapters.
Yep. Now, while Sorsha is getting chastised because she takes the blame here, and so her boss is just like, girl, what are you doing? You suck. You're lucky you're even still here. And it's probably because he is horny for you. And Sorsha thinks, quote, there could be no other reason for Prince Dorian to prefer Sorsha's services over Amethy's, of course. And I know she's like kind of being, facetious, being like, of course there's no other reason. But it's funny because that is true. He's going to her because he's horny for her. So like, it's just funny where she's like, kind of like, of course there's no other reason. But it's like, that was like, actually. Yeah. Ultimately, with Sorsha helping Dorian after his power exploding, it's her taking charge. Quote, he wasn't an enemy using forbidden powers, but a young man in need of help. Once again, Dorian managed to find himself not in the power position and is now the one who needs to be saved.
Yep. Poor Dorian. Like, his tale is of consistently being put down by other people.
Which is why he works perfect for Manon.
Yeah, it's so true.
This is all training for him.
I talked about Dorian channeling Chaol. Chaol, on the other hand, is doing his best to channel Celaena. He's been trying to track Aedion, and finally, he has successfully gone to a party where he's watched Aedion convince everyone he's there and then leave. Now, like Jack said earlier, this is not the normal Chaol. Chaol Book 1 would not do this. I don't know what Chaol is trying to achieve. Whatever he's doing it poorly, because if we recall all the references to a man with twin blades from Crown of Midnight, then we understand that there's some foreshadowing here. Quote, there's a cloaked figure with the twin blades approached Aedion. Now, Chaol doesn't pick up on this because he's hyper-focused on his objective to blackmail Aedion and keep him in line like a good captain of the guard would. Quote, if he caught Aedion buying illicit substances, that might be enough to get him to calm down, to keep the parties at a minimum and control the Bane when it arrived. This, in my mind, is all a facade. This has nothing to do with Chaol's motivations because Chaol doesn't know what motivates him right now.
No.
And because he's distracted and is busy justifying his actions to himself, he gets snuck up on, is then like, oh yeah, these must be the rebels. Oh well.
He's not using his brain power.
No.
He's just trying to be Celaena, and he's not even a very good Celaena.
Nope.
We're in chapter 19, and I really like that we're essentially in the same place where everything went wrong when the night when Nehemia died. Like, he's back with the rebels. He's back being captured by them. Captured by the same group within months is embarrassing.
Yeah.
And, there's a nice mirroring thing happen here.
I think it's a great point. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is he's doing the exact opposite of what he did with Celaena and Nehemia.
Yeah.
When Chaol's conscious again, he continues to keep on his captain of the guard facade. Quote, when you throw parties and convince my men to leave their posts, when you're not at those parties because you're sneaking through the streets, it's my duty to know why, Aedion. Or not. Or not. You just punish your men and get them back to their jobs.
Yeah.
I'm convinced Chaol's lying to himself. I think Chaol's trying to convince himself that nothing has changed with Celaena gone, or with the fact that he knows what he knows about Celaena Aelin. Ultimately, he's still captain of the guard. He's trying to do his duty. Is that true?
No, none of this is happening. So at one point, there's this interaction, quote, Aedion said, circling Chaol, his sword out, gleaming in the dim light, Captain of the guard, heir of Aniel, and spy, Or has your lover been giving you some tricks of the trade? Aedion is picking it up. Like, you're just trying to be Celaena so hard.
Yeah. And maybe he feels like, well, Adelin needs Adelin's greatest assassin and she's not here. So I'm going to fill that role.
I will. Like, he's just staring at himself like, yeah, Adelin needs his greatest assassin. It shall be me. I shall be the greatest assassin Adelin has ever had. It's almost like this is Chaol processing that what Celaena was doing was good the whole time.
Mhm.
And he judged her
Too harshly.
too harshly, incorrectly the whole time.
I love that point. I also think that what we're seeing right now continues to mirror Celaena. Celaena keeps lying to herself and saying, Aelin's dead. Just like Chaol keeps lying to himself and saying, I'm captain of the guard. Nothing's changed. I'm protecting the crown. The crown is good. Even though he knows that's not the case.
Yeah.
Just because you say it doesn't make it true.
No. We've already tried with Theo James.
It doesn't work.
No.
Aedion and Ren Allsbrook, who's the guy with the twin swords, are portrayed as predators. They circle Chaol like wolves. Quote, the scarred young man with the twin swords stepped closer, circling with Aedion now. Two predators sizing up their prey. They'd probably fight over his carcass. And then later, Aedion began circling again, the scarred young men echoing the graceful movements. These references are peppered throughout the conversation that Aedion has with Chaol. At some point, Aedion makes comments that he purrs to Chaol. It's very much like how Rowan treats Celaena in the next chapter. There's so much mirroring going on, guys. There's so many parallels to connect other people to.
Yeah.
It feels like Rowan and Aedion are being tied together, which is important when we switch to Aedion's point of view, because Aedion thinks about how he was meant to marry Celaena, or Aelin. Having revealed that Chaol knows too much about Aedion, and Aedion can't risk Chaol living, Aedion decides and prepares to kill Chaol. Chaol panics, and we finally see the heart of his true motivations. And it's true to Chaol, the Chaol we know. Quote, Aedion took a readying breath to kill him. Keeping Dorian protected was all he had left, all that had ever really mattered. If these rebels did indeed know something, anything about magic that might help to free it, if he could use Aedion to get that information. At the end of the day, just like for Dorian, it came down to Chaol, it comes down to Dorian for Chaol. No matter if they're being shits to each other. They both still care deeply about each other.
They want to love each other so
bad.
They
really do. They really do. It's so queer-coded.
It really is. Life would be so much easier if guys are just more open to sucking each other's dicks. Like, just admit that's what you want. I do have thoughts. I feel like Chaol coming to this conclusion of, like, not Dorian, that does more development for me of Chaol coming to this conclusion that Celaena's not the end-all be-all, right? Because it's not like, okay, so long as he dies, her secret dies with him. It's more of like, shit, I need to protect Dorian. And it's just little things like that where it's like the show not tell. What are these, you know, we talk about like, this doesn't make sense. You know, we're getting all this, like, where's the progression? This is a good example of progression.
Yeah. Because we didn't read it, but he does start out thinking about, like, if I die here, my mom, Celaena, Dorian, nobody's going to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Then it funnels down to just being about Dorian.
Yeah. And that's the, like,
yeah,
they're not OTP.
Yep, exactly. Now that we know whose side Aedion is on, we get the privilege of his point of view. And I think a lot of people don't like him. I actually really like Aedion. I think he is in a really complicated situation and has some really complex feelings. And it starts out with Aedion being like, I've had all these different titles and names in my short life, and I've never been ashamed of them until now. Quote, Aderlin's whore. That's what the ones who didn't know him called him. It was true. In so many ways, it was true. And he had never minded it. Not really. It had allowed him to maintain control in the north, to keep the bloodshed down to a minimum and a lie. This feels a lot like Celaena. Adelin's whore feels very similar to Adelin's assassin. And if we go back to the Crown of Midnight season, Jac did a lot of time comparing sex work to Celaena's assassin work, especially when it came to Archer and Celaena.
And here we are getting it again.
Getting it again.
You know, I would love a refreshing, like, I did so many horrible things. Give me 15 minutes. I would love to explain it. I'm sure they understand.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not the normal reaction, but I'm always like, I think you can explain yourself. Sometimes my reaction is like, I can explain my way out of this.
Maybe Aedion just feels too much shame.
And I just do not feel enough shame. There's a lot when it comes to titles, and we've talked about the meaning of titles and how Celaena has so many titles. But I love that we're getting Aedion because he's given himself, or he wears many titles as well. Like he calls, like there's Adelin's whore, the wolf, general, traitor, murderer, cousin, kin, protector. And I feel like unlike Celaena, he really identifies with every single one of his titles, even the most horrible ones.
Yeah. I love that you bring that up because that's another thing that Aedion mirrors with Celaena/Aelin. It's that guilt associated with their history. Quote, even though he'd been 13 and even though he'd been 40 miles away in Orinth when Aelin had been killed on the country estate, he should have stopped it. No.
Yeah.
Poor baby boy. We learn through his perspective why he fought so hard to get back the Sword of Orinth. And whether he realizes it or not, it's really a physical manifestation of his guilt. And that is confirmed through the narrative when he realizes that Aelin is actually alive. Quote, but now the sword, that weight he'd embraced for years, felt lighter and sharper, far more fragile, infinitely precious. I love how the sword has gone from a symbol of guilt to representative of Aelin for him, something that he's meant to cherish. Either way, he is burdened by her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think they could never be together. Because for a moment, I was like, are they going to get together?
I was so confused about it. No, I get it. It's like, why make it so clear that they considered each other cousins, but also fuckable cousins, you know?
Yep. Ugh, would have eaten that up.
I mean, same, but I'm happy. I didn't know we were saying this out loud.
I don't know. Oh well.
They're not like, look, Rowan and Aelin are cousins.
Yeah. I mean, they're further apart. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm just messed up on the inside, guys.
I get it.
Now, the power that came with the title of Aderlin's whore crumbles in the wake of knowing that Aelin is alive. Quote, every lie, every rumor and act and party he'd thrown, every battle real or faked, every life he'd taken so more could live. How would he ever explain that to her? Aderlin's whore. Never mind that she's been an assassin for 10 years, dude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just an excuse for Aedion to hate himself and to take on the burden of what was done to his kingdom. And to some extent, I wonder if he takes that on because he wants to do it for Celaena, right? He's supposed to be Celaena's or Aelin's sword and shield.
Yeah.
So he's going to bear the guilt
that
she is bearing or should be bearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just my thought.
This is important. Everyone take a sip. Their mothers? Oh, no, that can't be right. No, they can't be that kind of cousins.
Are they first cousins?
No, that's not allowed. That's not okay. They're, second, sure. Can someone please explain the following relationships? Okay, so Elena is Aelin's and Dorian's ancestors. Okay, got that. Aelin's mom was an Ash River princess to Aedion's mom. What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Okay, there has to be a family tree somewhere. Aelin, Ash River, Aedion's mom, Aedion. Okay. It luckily seems like their moms are cousins.
So they would be second cousins.
Thank God. I can accept certain things. Oh, wait, what? Hold on. Did other things get fucked? Aelin? Okay, this is a different one. You look it up too, please. That's Aelin, Aedion. This one looks different.
Okay. It looks like their grandparents were siblings, which means their mothers were cousins, which makes them second cousins.
Someone else says Aedion and Aelin are cousins through their mother. Their moms were sisters. Okay, we're going to just keep this in mind.
What I'm reading is that the current king of Wendlin
Yeah.
is Aelin's uncle,
Okay.
who was brother to her mother. So that's one side of the Ash Rivers.
Yeah.
And they are cousins with Aedion's parents.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but there was another thing that I saw on there too that said that they were related more.
Oh,
So let's just keep going. I want to move forward, please.
okay. Even though Aedion feels some guilt, there's also some comfort in the fact that Aelin has also sold herself. Quote, Aelin was alive and as much of a killer as he was and working for the same man. Cousins who kill together stay together?
And fuck together. Aedion absolutely wrecks himself when it comes to Aelin. Like, it is a moment of just like, he is so loyal to her. He was like, she's alive and I love her. And it was the cousin. It was the best. Like, this is why we think they were going to fuck, because like the way that he reacted to her is very visceral. More than like, that's some kissing cousin shit. And it's almost like we're supposed to be viewing this as like Chaol's rival now. It is weird. Like, we're like, okay, so we have Aedion, Chaol, and Rowan. Is this now a weird reverse harem where she's distantly related to two of them?
Yep. And kind of technically also distantly related to Dorian.
Oh, let's add him to the mix. Yep.
Kissing cousins.
Kissing cousins.
We move into chapter 20, and Celaena is doing her best to train and survive, but she's barely holding on to herself or her humanity. Quote, any shred of regret she felt at not approaching the warriors at the fortress was burned up by the fact that no one bothered to approach her either. I wanted to point this particular quote out because SJM's having a lot of fun using fire-related words to describe mundane things about Celaena. Her rage or her regret was burned up. In the previous chapter, Aedion thought about how Aelin's power smoldered within her. It's just a nice, consistent touch that SJM has, so I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. There's also a disassociation with responsibility here, because Celaena talks about, she's like, I stare people down, right? Like, they look at me, I stare them down. But then she's also like, they're not being open with me. But then when Luca's talking to her, she's also not into it. But at the same time, she's trying to dismiss this regret. Quote, Luca had dumped a pot in the sink and quietly said, for a long while, I couldn't talk about what happened to me before I came here. There were some days I couldn't talk at all, couldn't get out of bed either. But when you need to talk, she shut him down with a long look. And he hadn't said anything like it since. But at the same time, she was like, oh, I don't have regret because they leave me alone. It's like, well, I think this is self-imposed isolation. She's in denial. We cannot trust her.
We can't, because Celaena is depressed, and that's what SJM keeps reminding us. Quote, on a morning when it had taken a monumental effort to peel herself out of bed, and only the scar on her palm had made her plant her feet on the icy floor. This is what depression looks like. And why her oath to Nehemia is what motivates her, I will never understand. What I like about this is that when she talks,
No. I was like, your oath to me didn't get you out of bed for the gym this morning.
I know I felt so bad about that.
Did you?
I did.
You
Feel really
didn't.
bad.
If I'm more quiet, that's like me being
No, I
hurt.
know. I know.
Me sending you 20 pages of text messages that you didn't go through all my stories to view them.
I'm sorry. She's more hurt that I didn't look through all her stories.
That's actually true. That's true.
I will look at them after this.
Good.
I was looking at them as you're posting them. So I saw the first two and then I got up to shower.
I could see you rolling your eyes and looking away and looking at it.
Anyway, what I like about when Esham talks about Celaena's depression, at least in this moment, is that it's all kind of the events she describes have already taken place in the past. This is the one time where it happening off the page, I think, makes sense because if it was happening in the moment, I don't think Celaena would have the wherewithal that would make the narration coherent
Mm-hmm.
because as someone who's depressed, my thoughts don't make sense when I'm depressed. So I think there had to be some distance.
Oh, yeah.
I also think we need to be present in Celaena's rage in this moment because rage is what fuels her transition at the end of this chapter. And so I don't think Esham wants us to be dwelling on Celaena's depressive emotions, but instead on her anger. Nevertheless, this is all making Celaena very unpleasant to be around. And she hates being around people in love. And the sad thing is I understand. I've been that person. When thinking about Emrys and Malachi, quote, she hated their closeness. The way Malachi's eyes lit up every time he saw him, hated it so much that she choked on it. That hate speaks very loudly to her jealousy, to that thing she can't have with Chaol, that we saw her mourn whether or not we understood it. It makes her self-hatred of herself very violent. And I think at the end of the day, it's because she knows she's the reason she can't have a normal relationship with Chaol. Mm-hmm. She's the Terrasen queen. She's the Fae. She's the one with a really fucked up destiny. And I think that brings out the worst of her.
You know, I'm going to get rid of my note because you convinced me. I was going to be like, where is this coming from? But it makes total sense I was like, why is she just now coming to this conclusion that it wouldn't work with Chaol? Because she's coming to the conclusion that she is Fae, she is Aelin and everything. No, I'm going to continue. You did a great job. No notes.
Thanks. I didn't know I was convincing you of anything. But
I didn't know either.
Patting myself on the back.
Yeah.
Going back to something I said at the start of the episode, when Celaena threatens self-harm, Rowan listens. Quote, he'd backed off to her surprise when she told him that she'd slit her own throat before entering the barrows again.
How do we feel about this? Like the constant threat of self-harm? Because one, I think it's something that should be taken absolutely seriously. To me, self-harm is not something that should be taken lightly. I remember when I was in junior high, there was a lot of very toxic conversation surrounding self-harm. There was a lot of people that had very horrible attitudes of like, they're just trying to get attention, you know, like the direction of where they're cutting should tell you what they want. Like it was very, very horrible. So I come from a different kind of protective stance when it comes to the topic of self-harm because I feel bad for all the kids that I did know who were participating in self-harm, if that's the correct way of saying that. So I don't know how I feel about someone who casually throws out this, like, all these very violent things that she would do to herself when I would argue the self-harm that Celaena does is putting her in danger. She's never done this type of self-harm of actually hurting herself this way. And so I just kind of have like moments where I'm like, you are being so hyperbolic, where it's like the ways that you do hurt yourself, Celaena, is that you put yourself in very dangerous situations, but you're not actually going to cut yourself off. You're like cut your ear off. You're not actually going to hold a blade to yourself. And I think it starts to undermine those who have experienced those feelings.
I completely respect and understand what you're saying. I don't know what SGM was trying to achieve,
Yeah.
but I don't think the two have to be separate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe her threatening to slit her own throat is her being hyperbolic, and she would never do that. But at the same time, it is a cry for help. It
Yeah.
is, I am willing to hurt myself. And are you willing to acknowledge that?
Yeah.
I don't understand cries for help because sometimes they're inconsistent with what people do to themselves,
Yeah.
but it's there. Like, it
Like, no one
happens.
should ignore a cry for help at the end of the
Right.
day. So
Exactly.
regardless of the question of would she actually do this or not, the thing is that this is a cry for help. And as readers and as 300-year-old Fae, they should not be ignored.
Exactly. I think Rowan is starting to recognize that cry for help, which is why he listens. He doesn't really do much about it, but he does listen. And I do also think maybe he starts to see in Celaena what Celaena is starting to see in him, because she comments internally again, quote, such dead, joyless eyes. She had a feeling she looked like that these days. She knew she had looked like that the night Chaol had caught her gutting Archer in the tunnel. What had left Rowan so soulless? Deep down, does Rowan see himself in Celaena in her current state? I don't know. But maybe that's why he instinctively knows to back off when she is making these statements, even if they're hyperbolic.
And it's also laying groundwork done for us to
Mhm.
forgive him, where it's like, hey, you know what? He does leave her alone when she threatens to kill herself. What a good guy.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe we should forgive him. Someone give this man a reward.
You're being facetious.
It's just like if the bar is in hell, we need to call it out.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Something we haven't talked a lot about, I think you've brought it up once this episode, Jac, but since the beginning of Celaena meeting Rowan, they always have some sort of silent conversation, even though they're not literally speaking in
Mhm.
each other's minds the way that Rhys and Feyre do. There's this one, I do like this quote, but I feel confused. They, quote, occasionally had those unspoken shouting matches. So you had read an unspoken exchange that they had. Again,
Yeah.
not literal voices in the mind. Rowan looks at Aelin and she thinks she's able to interpret what those looks mean, what he's saying. Is this supposed to be a breadcrumb for their connection? I don't know. Again, they're not full on mind speaking, but Aelin seems to think she can read this guy really well.
This is groundwork, whether it's for romantic groundwork or getting the reader to forgive him groundwork or, character development groundwork. But we've hinted at this, we said this, but it doesn't work for me because we're not seeing this. And one slight interaction doesn't do it.
Mhm.
I want to see what a shouting match in just eyes is. I want to see what that is. We keep getting these description of like he'd jeer at her, hiss at her, insult her. And then it's one of these things where you have to summarize to keep it moving, but you're taking so much away from character development. And
Yeah.
I think that's why readers like me or other readers who also have issues with just saying that he's not their favorite, I think it's because of this.
The predatory nature we saw in Aedion and Ren in the previous chapter is visible to Celaena and the other Fae, including Rowan. And it's worth noting because it comes back full circle at the end of the chapter. Quote, they were predators, the lot of them. Some of the dominant females were just as aggressive, prone to snarling when challenged or annoyed or even hungry. She supposed she might have fit in with them if she'd bothered to try. Just a little foreshadowing. I also made a note. Rowan purrs to Celaena the way Aedion purred to Chaol. Again, mirroring.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last time we saw when they trained together, the moment Rowan dominates Celaena, are they training? I don't know, but it feels like it's supposed to be filled with sexual tension.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do anything for me, though. Quote, she gagged, jolting as he grabbed her tongue. Say that again, he purred. She choked. He shoved his body against her wall of hard muscle and several hundred years of lethal training, trapping her against a tree.
It's like when you pin a hard body against you, like I don't make the rules.
Yeah.
That's just underlining hot, Grabbing her tongue is like weird because it is very childish.
Yeah.
It is like what, like you hold your tongue. Like that is like kind of the origins and actually pinching a kid's tongue. So you kind of have this like sexual charge-ish moment mixed with child discipline.
That's why it doesn't work for me.
Yep.
It's not like he's holding her tongue in his mouth. Maybe then.
I'd allow it.
Before we get to
I've recently allowed it.
Before we get to the part where Rowan bites Celaena, we have to note that in her thoughts internally, while all this physicality is happening, Celaena signals how shitty she feels about herself. Quote, "She was a joke by comparison, a joke." And when he pins her, quote, "pinned like some weakling." But that was what she'd become, wasn't it? Useless, pathetic.
I'm going to continue with this quote. "She cried out as those canines pierced the spot between her neck and shoulder, a primal act of aggression, the bite so strong and claiming that she was too stunned to move. He had her pinned against the tree, clamped down harder, his canines digging deep, the blood spilling onto her shirt. Sexually charged, not just that, but sex for the first time charged, like penetration." Yes. Did I just blow your mind?
Yes, because the quote continues to make your point.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like very, sexually charged, but like the first time he's literally piercing her and blood is being drawn. This is almost like a sexual act for the first time.
Which makes sense why this is the first time since coming here that she's intentionally shifting.
Yeah.
Because she's lost her virginity?
Yep.
So the rest of the quote, "She growled, more animal than sentient being, and shoved. Rowan staggered back a step, teeth ripping her skin like a hymen as she struck his chest. She didn't feel the pain, didn't care about the blood or the flash of light. No, she wanted to rip his throat out, rip it out with the elongated canines she bared at him as she finished shifting and roared." When you equate it to losing a woman's virginity, it is very sexual.
It is very sexual. It's all right. I'm going to be honest. So sometimes it doesn't happen, like the bleeding doesn't happen the first time.
Yeah.
But there's something extremely vulnerable of when you look and you're bleeding because of having just been penetrated. And that just kind of had that moment of like totally different feelings, totally different things. But like, that like having like blood after the first time you have sex, I thought it was like not a rumor, but like, you just don't even think like it happens all the time. And I was like, oh my God, that's real. It was embarrassing. I mean, I don't know why I was embarrassed. I do know why. I wouldn't be embarrassed now, but I don't recommend anyone being embarrassed. But yeah, they just had sex for the first time. I mean, you can look at it as that's her first true Fae interaction. So that's like her true first sexual act.
Yes. And I think if we step away from the sexuality of this, the sexual nature of this, I think it's also important to note that all of this is happening as Celaena's like, wow, I'm so weak. I'm so weak. He's pinned me. I'm worthless. I'm worthless. And then he just causes her more pain. And then she's like, well, fuck you. Because at the end of the day, she's a prideful being, right?
Yeah.
As she alluded to previously, she fits in with the Fae women who growl and snarl and do all the things just as much as the males do.
Yeah.
And that's who Celaena is. And that's why we're seeing her fight back and come into her Fae.
Oh, Celaena. Well, join us for Thursday because we got some more exciting things coming up.
All right. So, as a reminder, Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks, it's going to be on Thursday. Separate episode because it's spoilery. We're also going to discuss listener thoughts and interpretations based on prompts that we put out on Instagram. So, stay tuned. But before we wrap up, Jac,
have we seen the inciting incident in Heir of Fire yet? I kind of was talking myself around in circles with that during this episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does losing the metaphorical virginity count? I don't know.
Before I give my answer, you give your answer.
I genuinely don't know. So what we are seeing happen in a lot of ways is we're seeing truth being revealed to people. So Aedion's truth, his interaction with the rebels being revealed to Chaol revealing Aelin being alive to Aedion, Dorian revealing his magic to Sorsha, and then Celaena finally being able to transition into her Fae and original form. I don't even know that qualifies as inciting incident, but it's a turning point.
Yeah. So the turning points, I mean, each one has to have their own turning points, right?
Yeah.
Chaol, he revealed about Celaena, and we find out that Aedion is actually, like a rebel. That's a huge turning point.
Yeah.
Dorian, his power has been revealed.
Yeah.
Now someone else knows about his power. That's a huge turning point. I guess she can turn into a fae. Her inciting incident is so early on. It's like, okay, now you're going to miss word. Like, it felt so immediate of like, okay, you've been traveling. Now you're here. Now you're going to miss word.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's her inciting incident. But like, where's that like first 25% twist? Like something happens. And then also with Manon, we love her storyline, but nothing's happening yet. Like, her story is truly in the first 20% of her own. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't had a thing actually happen there.
Yeah, we're not going to for a while. It's interesting. There's a reason why this book isn't as enjoyed as other books. I think it's very confused.
I mean, talking about how Manon is one of the best written characters and some of her strongest writing, but also the weakest storyline. And then you have Chaol, who I think has one of the strongest storylines. I mean, I was even saying like, this is how he confirms that Dorian is his main priority. This is him making a gamble, right? And then Dorian, hey, I'll go into it because it's tragic. But then Celaena's storyline is just, it's interesting, but also because we're not getting the screen time it deserves, it's not as interesting to me. Rowan is not interesting enough to me. Like,
Missword is not that interesting to me.
No, because all of the interesting things have happened, we're not seeing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where I land on it. But this is like one of those books that we talk about analyzing things to make ourselves better writers.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really good book to do in a practice of what would you want to do and what would you not want to do.
Yeah. And how would you make it stronger? Because there's lots of room for improvement.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thanks for listening to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. Join us Thursday for our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks discussion of today's chapters.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to your favorite podcast platform. It really helps other readers find us. And of course, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's episode. Share your comments through a form at booktalkforbooktalk.com, and we might feature your feedback in a future mini episode or in a future Patreon exclusive episode.
For merch and more ways to support the show, head to booktalkforbooktalk.com. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle BookTalk for Book Talk. And don't forget to join us by subscribing to the Subtext SocietyJournal.substack.com to get more insights into the romantasy and romance world.
Go subscribe. Bye.
Bye.